Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 182. Today we're going to talk about singing is hard and how to make singing easier. I don't know if you agree with me. I'll give you my reasons for feeling like singing is hard, or at least it used to be hard for me. Welcome to the program today, and just wanted to do a shout out to RJ. You were first. Congratulations. Nice to have you here. Eldon, hi, nice to have you here. So I remember sitting in a class with Mr. Seth Riggs, and he said something just in passing. He said, it isn't, let me see, what did he say? It's not hard if you know what you're doing, something like that. And there are things that I just didn't know about singing. I felt like singing was so mysterious. And I want to ask you right now this question. Is singing hard for you? Let me know, yes or no, in the comments section. Is singing hard for you? Matthew, hi, nice to have you here. For those of you who are just joining or joining after the broadcast is over, is singing hard for you? Danny, hi, nice to have you here from Syracuse. Awesome. Alex says, yes, it is hard at times. Norman, hi, nice to have you here. Norman TV, hey, is singing hard for you? Sometimes it comes naturally, Alex says. Andreas Lidvigsen from Denmark. Nice to have you here today, Andres. Matthew says that yes and no, depends on what key and how high it is. Ah, okay. So singing is not hard unless we make it easier for ourselves. You know, that's true. I could sing songs low in my voice, and it was pretty easy. But whenever the song got up to where it always does, any fun song always took me up high. It almost, I would avoid those if I had to. I just, I couldn't sing past a certain point. And so for me, singing was hard because of those high notes. That's the first thing that I noticed when I started getting serious about singing. Stephen, hi, nice to have you here today. Danny says, sing in mixed voice. Please. Well, we can talk about that. Eldon, yes, extremely difficult. Still trying to break my voice, break my break. Yeah. Andrea says, I find it very hard. I recently tried SLS technique, and with this, I also switched teacher. Yeah, I can give you my story on SLS. It worked. I thought, well, I can share. I've actually even wrote something in a journal one time about it that I was keeping. And Norman says I've managed to get from A1 to D5. Wow, A1, man, that is down there, Norman. Okay, so Adrian, how to sing better in chest voice? Yeah, is that one of the things that's hard for you? Here's the question of the day. Is singing hard for you? Adrian, is singing in chest voice hard for you? Think about your voice, you guys. Think about your singing. I'll look back and I'll give you the two hardest things for me. First of all, I couldn't sing high notes. When I hit this certain spot, I didn't want to go any further because I know if I went to here, it cracked. And the second thing is I couldn't sing with vibrato. I did not have vibrato. And my teacher, who had her degree from the university and her master's degree in singing, vocal performance, told me that if you weren't born with vibrato, you don't have it. And so I went all of my life until I was 43, 44 years old, believing that I was one of those that was not born with vibrato. And so I sang in a straight tone all of my life. Those were the two of the very hardest things for me, were the high notes and not having vibrato. What about you? Matthew says, vowel modifications are what makes it challenging for me. The work is finding what fits. Yeah. Andrea says, I found your video on SLS and found it very informative. It was partly why I switched teachers. Yeah. So, singing, on the one hand, is easy. It's just like talking. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, N, O, P. And just add something, add a melody to what you're saying, and it's just sustained talking. What's hard about that? What's hard about sustained talking? And so it's very much like we talk all our lives. When we're little kids, we sing. That's what I did. I sang all the time. Sang through the house, sang everywhere, my mother says. I should bring her in here. She's 87. She's staying with us. She came out for a short visit, and then the COVID-19 popped in, and so she's been here since the first week of March, April, May, so a full 2 months now, and I'm so grateful that she is here. Really wonderful to have her here. I live away from my home, so it's great to have her here. She was here for Mother's Day. She said I started singing before I knew what I was saying. I would just walk to the house and sing. And it was easy. So when does it become hard? When did it become hard for you guys? I'll tell you when it became hard for me. It became hard for me when I wanted the lead role in the school musical. I wanted to be the leading role. So I had to be able to sing, and I had to be able to sing better than most everybody else, as well as act. But if you can't sing, they don't want you up there, right? The other times it became hard for me was when I wanted to I was in several madrigal groups, I was in several choirs, and when I wanted to sing the solo. And so, all right, Chuck, you try it, and I'd sing it. And if it was marginal, which I'm afraid in high school it was okay. I mean, I had one solo in my madrigal group, one main solo. It didn't make the cut. We made an album. It didn't get on the album. So I remember singing that song. Turtle Dove was what it was called, and I think it had a D in it, or a D flat, or a E flat, and I was flat on the high notes. That's what was hard, as I'd go up singing higher and higher, and I'd go flat as I was getting, like I thought, to the top of my voice. I just couldn't push it up hard enough. That's hard. Singing was hard. I got the lead role, but the vocal line, the solo lines for the lead weren't that high. And if they were high, I was able to lighten it enough. I played King Arthur in Camelot when I was in high school. And it was life-changing. I loved it. But I began to realize that I had this limitation in my voice. So Adrian says, I think it's not hard for me singing. I have a decent voice. Awesome. Stephen says, what is technically happening physiologically during mixed voice? That's a great question. I'd like to come back to that. What is physiologically happening? Because that's one of the things I want to talk about today. There are physiological things that make singing hard and make singing easy. We have to know them, though. We have to understand and know what they are. So during mixed voice, I want to talk about that. So Adrian says, but I want to have the best tone. Yeah, so what is it about the voice what is it about the tone that seems hard? I mean, you have tone in your speaking voice, right? I have tone in my speaking voice. So why can't I just say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Why do I need to change anything from my voice? Do I need to add something to it? Do I need to take something away? Isn't it easier than that? Or isn't it as easy as that? Just sing like I talk? Hey, Osminium. Osminium. Nice to have you here again today. Your sound is mono. Yes, I am sorry. I broke my USB adapter for my ATR 2100, and I'm using an interface now. Instead of just going into the computer, I'm using this, and so far I haven't figured out how to create stereo with the H5. I'll fix it someday. Delphia says, hi from Turkey, nice to have you here. Matthew says, I still use Adobe Sound in front, and that helps. Also, here is a problem for me. I was singing today a war song. The word I need to change is forever. I'm thinking for is food, ever is go to book. I'm lost on that, Matthew. Sorry. Andrea says, things I find particularly hard with singing is all the different kind of knowledge. Lower the larynx, breath control, raising the roof of the mouth, straining, etc. It's hard to know which to use. I think directed to Matt Barrett, what does it mean in front? I never understood this concept. Oh, I see. Use the dopey sound in front that helps. Here is a problem for me. I was singing today a war song. A word I need to change is ever I'm thinking for is food ever. Anyway, I'm lost on that. Okay, so osmium. Osmium. Thank you. I don't know why I have such a hard time. Vowel modify. Oh, forever. Yeah, so forever it would be, probably. Forever. Is what gets us messed up. So you want to go forever. O is usually pretty good. Forever. Forever. And not too much on the R. So, okay. Let's talk, first of all, I want to go back to refer to something that Stephen Pickering talked about. Physiologically, what's happening? Now, that's a question that we can ask about everything in our voice, in singing. And what a lot of people don't know, or what makes things so mysterious at times about singing, is that there are physiological things that are happening. And the technique that I teach was referred to here earlier as speech level singing. The technique that I teach, the exercises cause physiological things to happen. So I don't ever say to a student, bring it forward, or put it in front, or place it in the mask, or bring the sound forward, or I don't know, any number of different things. Sing from the diaphragm, those kinds of directions are difficult because people don't understand, like who was it said, someone already said here, I don't know what it means in front. A joke, I don't know if it's a joke or not, but I've heard Seth Riggs talk about this. He said he was taking a lesson once and they kept telling him to put it in the mask or put it forward or something. And he finally said, if you don't stop telling me where to put it, I'm going to tell you where to put it. Because, you know, how do you direct someone where, you know, they don't feel it the same way you do? They don't feel forward, or they don't feel the front, or how do you put something there, or anyway. So the exercise, so let me talk about cause and effect. This is something that's been very powerful to me as a teacher, and as I began to understand it as a singer, it really helped. And that is the exercises that, like I have on the last video that I did, the exercises for the 30-day challenge. I did exercises for full chest, high larynx, and mix, I think. Did I do flip falsetto too? I can't remember. Anyway, at least 2 of those I did in the video last, I don't know, when was it? A few days ago. And how to succeed with a 30-day challenge. Those are not just warm-ups. These are exercises that cause an effect in the voice, that cause certain things to happen. Now, that was a real eye-opener to me, that the exercises that I give you aren't just warm-ups. Yeah, they warm up the voice, but that's a very, yeah, there's a lot of ways to warm up the voice. But these exercises that I give you for, like, let's say, for example, if your vocal type is pulled chest, high larynx, the exercises for pulled chest, high larynx cause you to lower the larynx and stop pulling chest. They cause a certain physiological thing, and that was referred to earlier by Stephen. Only he asked about physiologically what's happening with mix. So the exercises that I give in the mix voice exercises cause a physiological thing to happen. I don't have to tell you to bring the sound forward. I don't have to tell you to, I don't know, whatever, sing for the diaphragm. I don't have to tell you to place it in the mask or whatever, or raise the soft palate. Try that on for size. Go ahead, raise the soft palate. What you find is when people are given direction like that, they now introduce another level of tension that wasn't there, that you've now allowed to be introduced into their singing, and you've got to get rid of it. And how do you know they're raising the right part of the palate or whatever, you know? So the exercises I give to students cause certain things to happen. They physiologically cause things to happen. And so we can remove some of the mystery out of singing. And in fact, that's one of the things I wrote down in my journal when I started learning about this particular technique that I teach. It's not mysterious. I started understanding my voice. Now, I didn't even know what chest voice was or head voice. And mix was a mystery to me for a couple years. Probably, well, it was a mystery to me. And as I mentioned, vibrato I couldn't do it because I wasn't born with it, I thought. But come to find out, there are some cause and effect exercises that will cause vibrato to be functioning in a voice. All right, so let me get a couple other comments here. Let's see, Osmian Studios, what is your favorite singer? Who would you recommend as an example of a great singer? Well, my favorites, I don't have a favorite singer. I have a lot of, I love a lot of different singers. Um, I think Bernadette Peters is a great singer. I think Barbra Streisand's a great singer. I think for men's voices, I probably have fewer to choose from in that. But you know, I think Stevie Wonder's a great singer. I think I really like Josh Groban. I think he's a great singer, especially on his earlier albums, particularly. I liked what he did. Gosh, you know that it's like what's your favorite movie? I don't, you know, it's I can tell you if I've thought about it for a while, I probably have a top five. But I think Pavarotti's awesome. You know, there's a lot of different great singers out there. I think Stephen Perry, I think he's amazing. So there's just a lot of, you know, people that um, I really liked, that I've liked through the years. And they're not necessarily the best singers. A lot of it has to do with their music they're playing too. I like Jimi Hendrix. I don't know that he's the best singer, but I really like his voice with his music. I thought it was awesome. I like Jessie J. I think she's awesome. I like Madonna. I think Lady Gaga is great. So, you know, there's a lot of different people that I like. Maybe not, you know, I can't say technically that all those people are perfect, but I think a lot of them are really good. I think Barbra Streisand's virtually perfect. Anyway, so other comments here. Someone has said it was like watercolor, just the right amount of head and correct amount of chest. Okay, yeah. I've heard references to like a color. Someone sings something, they say, what does that feel like? Well, it feels like purple. All right, sing purple. That's kind of the point here, is that we're all so individual that we identify certain sounds with certain feelings. And hi, Zena, hope you are doing great. I am, thank you. I'd like to know how to modify in the word right and E in the word defend. When Barbra Streisand sang Woman in Love and said, it is a right I defend. Yeah, so if you were going to modify the E in defend, rather than saying defend and defend, it would be defend, like a I sound, defend. That's how you would modify eh to I. Matthew. Okay, the conversation is going here between some guys, and awesome. That's terrific. Okay. Andre says, I got a lot of questions. What are your best 3 to 5 tips for new singers? Who other YouTube singing coaches do you find advisable? What is your opinion on SLS and singing with success? Singing success is Brett Manning. Brett studied with Seth Riggs early on for many years, I think, and then he broke away and started his own thing. I think for the most part, Brett's awesome, and I don't really know his teachers. I've listened to Brett's CDs and things. I thought he did great, and he teaches a lot of the same things, or I teach a lot of the same things that Brett does, because we were trained by the same guy, same teacher, Seth Riggs. My experience with some of his students are that there's a little bit of he gets a little bit squeezed. There's a little bit of the edge is, I think, a little bit edgier than I think is necessary. But he's worked with a lot of people, a lot of bigger names than I have, and I think he's taught a lot of people too. So speech level singing as a technique really is kind of it's not dead, but it's no longer being Seth is going to turn 90 in I think in September, August or September. He's turning 90, and if I got the count right, and they're not training teachers anymore, so it's going to probably. I don't know if anybody's ever going to. I think it'll probably stay in his family. Maybe maybe his daughter will pick it up or something. I don't know. I think she teaches like Seth does. But personally, for me, it's revolutionized my singing and my life. So let's talk about for a second I've talked about what makes singing hard, and some of you have mentioned some things. High notes, vibrato, it seemed mysterious to me. I didn't really understand my voice or what was wrong or why. I mean, I knew I couldn't sing high, but I thought I was born that way. I didn't know there was anything to do about it. So in that light, it's pretty mysterious to me. So you each have experiences in life, and that makes us individuals. And so that's one reason why singing is so challenging, is because it's really quite different for everyone. Tell me, how do you speak? Describe for me how you speak. Well, let me hear it. Let me hear your explanation of how you talk. Oh, and also, would you include information on why you have a particular tone quality and why you speak at a certain pitch and or pitches, and why your voice sounds strong sometimes and weak at other times? So please give me that detail. So now let's transfer those questions to singing. And you begin to see why is singing so, and also there's 1,000 methods of singing, it seems like. You go through all of these YouTube channels, and there's a million different approaches. Eldon A. Roger Love, set your voice free. Roger was trained by a gentleman named Seth Riggs. Aye, Captain, how much time does it take to reach a good singing voice? And one more question, can you sing through puberty? Yes, you can. And how long does it, let me see, how long does it take time to get a good singing voice? Doesn't take much time at all, especially if you have a little bit of talent. Eldon, A, don't be afraid to sound like a fool. Had to make many errors, but slow improvement. Have been working exercises every day for 7 months. Great. I speak from my chest. My voice is loud. Matthew, that's Zena. Matthew says, as my voice teacher said, what may work for you may not work for others. Example, the dopey voice may work for me, but not for others. I think that's a good point. Andrea says, thanks for answering my question, Chuck. You're awesome. I like the simplicity of the information in your videos. Keep it up. Well, I want to get back to a couple things here. For new singers, let's talk about what, you guys, you've got a lot of great comments here. What makes singing easier? What makes singing easier? For me, makes singing easier if I have exercises that I know cause my voice to do certain things. So, for example, if I gave you this exercise, or now that seems almost nonsensical, but when that air comes up from the vocal fold, from the lungs to the vocal cords resist the air and then allow an amount of air to pass through to be able to form the word in your mouth and then get it outside. But with that bubble, the lips stop the air, or also interrupt the air, or interfere with the air. And so that interruption of the air here, combined with the interruption of, or the interference of the air at the vocal cords, it creates back pressure. So the larynx stays down as the pitch ascends. So I can go to the high C and not have my larynx come up. So what else does that do? Well, it allows the vocal cords, with the larynx down, there's no swallowing muscles engaging and squeezing the vocal cords. And so they adjust appropriately from chest through the bridge area, the mix area, and into head voice, and back down again. You don't have to think about it. They just do it. Now, there are some situations where people still hold on and will strain through that area or even crack or break. But my experience was the first time I did that exercise, I went into my head voice and back down again. I was shocked. I knew something had happened. I just vocalized higher than I'd ever done before, and there was no strain. And there was no falsetto. So there's an example of an exercise that seems like just a warm-up, but in actuality, it's training to keep the larynx down. It's training to allow the vocal folds, the vocal cords, to adjust appropriately from chest through the bridge and into head voice and back down again, all without much thought about it. Very, very powerful exercise. Or another example of an exercise that causes something to happen is nay, 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 nay. Now that little funny sound is funny, it's strange, but it's profound. It's profoundly powerful because, first of all, it's thinning out my chest voice. It causes my chest voice to lighten up. Instead of saying, nay, 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 and try and take that up, nay, 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 which also pulls my larynx higher, and so I'm pulling chest and pulling the larynx higher. If I said, nay, 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 I've thinned out the chest. And so now it's not as heavy in the bottom. But look what happens when it goes to the top. Nay, 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 nay. Whereas the temptation is to say, especially if you've never done it before, nay, 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 nay. You know, you want to break into falsetto there. For us guys, ladies, you would be up here. Nay, 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 nay. Well, the temptation when we go into through our bridge is to crack. Nay, nay, nay. So that little funny nay, nay, nay deepens the top, deepens the upper part of the voice so that you don't go into falsetto. So you're able to connect the bottom to the top. I got to close this door here. I can hear my mum. So I have a glass door in my studio. Now, that's a nay, nay, nay. It also is combines what's called a diphthong vowel. It's a vowel with two sounds. A, A, A. And so what happens, it encourages chest. Nay, 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 nay. But E is, and here's the other thing. Vowels tend to cause certain things in the voice. So if I said, nay, 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 the E encourages the head, the inclusion of the head resonance. So now we have a nay, nay, nay that's able to connect head to, the chest voice to through the middle, through that bridge area, and into your head, and back down again, using a little bit of a funny sound. It raises the larynx slightly. It's temporary, so we don't continue singing with that, but we've got to start building confidence that we can do it, right? So that pretty soon you can say nay, 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 nay. So for me, you know, that little exercise right there took me to the B4, whereas E4 was my limit before all this. So it just increased my, you know, my range more than half an octave. So these exercises cause that to happen. I don't have to. You didn't have to tell me put it forward. You know, bring the sound forward, or make it a little bit brassy, or you know, describe some kind of sound that wanted me to do. Just nay, 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 and just do the pitch, and it's self-placing. It goes where it causes it to go. So that's the tremendous power behind these exercises. How about the dopey gi? Was talked about here earlier. And so if I said gi, 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 now look what happens. If I just do that dopey sound, gi, 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 the larynx drops. Gi, gi. Now all I have to do is keep that dopey sound. Again, this is one of those temporary things, but it causes something to happen. I don't have to tell a student, lower your larynx. I just say, gi, 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 gi. If I'll do that, it happens. It causes an effect, keeping the larynx down. Gi, 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 gi. Well, now I've just gone 2 octaves. B2 to B4, and didn't have a break. Now is it completely finished sound or normal? No, not exactly. But look what happens if I just go a litlittle less dopey. Gi, 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 gi. Or drop the g sound. Change the vowel. 2 octaves, all the way up to the B4. Now I'm a bass. I shouldn't be singing up there. But that's connected tone. So look what the dopey gi leads to. Starts to allow, you start to be able to vocalize without the larynx coming up. The nay, nay, nay help connect it so it doesn't crack or break. So the nervous system begins to feel what's possible. Now, take yourself out of what you're able to do right now. Imagine me 23 years ago now or so, whereas I couldn't sing above, just the idea that I could do something like I just showed you was not in the realm of even my imagination, because I'd spent that many years believing that was the end, the top. I thought maybe if I pushed it hard enough, maybe I could get one more, but I had no idea there was more than an octave ahead of, that I could expand to. These exercises cause, I think, almost miraculous things with the voice. And so let me answer the question that was brought up by Stephen, who said, what is physiologically happening during mix voice? And so what has to happen is there has to be we're transitioning from, well, first of all, here's mix. Nay, 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 nay. Now it's not a finished sound, right? In fact, that's up into my head voice. Nay, 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 nay. Here's right in my bridge, right in the mix. Nay, 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 nay. Now I've got to be able to do that. Otherwise, I would have been singing nay, 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 nay. You know. So the exercises lead you into a certain condition, a certain effect. You start to feel it, and you're creating new muscle memory now. Oh my gosh, what was that? Nay, 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 nay. All right, you got that? No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Then you start to add other words instead of nay, 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 or gee, gee, gee. But we've established pathway in the snow. We can see the footprints emotionally, intellectually, electrically, in our nervous system. We know we've done it. Now we just have to do it with a different word. That's the power of the cause and effect exercises. And so when you're singing in a mix, physiologically what's happening is there is first of all, the voice is balanced, so there's equal amounts of air and vocal cord playing together nicely. So we have to get a balance, right? We have to, so what happens here is that if I were to break into falsetto, ooh, oh, now the muscle of the vocal cord is disengaged. So the thyroid arytenoid is disengaged if I'm in falsetto. So that's not mix. So the thyroid arytenoid has to be engaged. And as you ascend in through the bridge, the thyroid arytenoid accompanies you. Now there comes a certain point where the thyroid arytenoid, the main muscle in the vocal cord, has to diminish somewhat. It has to decrease its participation. But if I let go, if I let go of it altogether, and then it breaks into falsetto, and I've lost there's nothing to mix. It's just that. So I can't mix anything, right? So I have to maintain the thyroid arytenoid, but it can't be as strong as full chest. So it has to diminish. It has to the chord structure is stretching because the pitch is going up. In the case of a rising pitch, now we can also mix below in lower notes, but in the case of a rising pitch, the vocal cord, another primary chord structure is the cricothyroid, which tilts the larynx slightly, and it gives a little bit more of a stretch, which helps us with our pitch. And so now that cricothyroid begins to assume more responsibility, more engagement as the pitch ascends. So we've got this interplay, this dance with the muscle in the vocal cord. In the vocal cord, that's the thyroid arytenoid, the TA, and the other muscle, which is tilting the larynx and giving it a little bit more stretch as the pitch ascends. And so the whole time the TA is engaged, because if it disengages, you're in falsetto, and the CT gets a bigger job as the pitch ascends, and so the TA diminishes a little bit, not altogether. Otherwise, you'd lose your the muscle would disengage. And so you've got those two things physiologically happening. The exercises cause those things to happen. I've never told a student, no, keep your TA engaged. Keep it engaged. Keep it engaged. Oh, you just disengaged your TA. No. No, the exercises cause those things to happen. And that's the genius behind this technique, is that it causes the sound to be placed where it's supposed to be placed. It causes the the chord structure to adjust where it's supposed to adjust. Just by keeping the larynx down. So physiologically, keeping the larynx down allows the chord structure to stay together and doesn't build up the pressure so much that it has a break in the falsetto. So that's what demystifies this technique, is that I understand it emotionally, mentally, and physically. And I just know that the exercises, if I do them as demonstrated to me, will cause the right thing to happen. Let me get any other comments here. I've been talking a lot. Does that make sense? So if I go back to, let me see. Well, that's the answer to Stephen's question, physiologically, what's happening in mix. And fortunately, my brain, my brain wouldn't know what to do with it if I said, hold on to that TA, keep the TA going, keep it going. Because I don't have that kind of handle on, but I can do the exercise that causes that to happen. I can disengage the TA. Now I've disengaged the thyroid arytenoid. And I can re-engage it. I just re-engaged it. So, but I don't know that that's going to necessarily help me when I sing. I want to know how to keep it together. I couldn't tell you, but I can give you an example of an exercise that will cause it to happen. Nay, 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 nay. And now I'm set up for success. Okay. Andres, I feel like speech level singing changed my life and will change the lives of, and I've met singers from all over the world whose lives have been changed. I know that Michael Jackson studied it for 25 plus years. I know that Natalie Cole did. I know that Barbra Streisand studied it for a period of time. I know that hundreds, there's over 120 Grammy winners that studied this technique with Seth Riggs. And so I have a lot of confidence in it. I have just seen it change my voice and change my students' voices. It causes good things to happen in the voice. The exercises cause you to eliminate the bad things and introduce the good things. That's what the exercises do, the cause and effect exercises. Who other YouTube singing coaches do you find advisable? I am ignorant when it comes to knowing all of the other coaches. I suppose because I know what Brett teaches in Singing Success, that I'd feel pretty comfortable saying, Brett Manning Singing Success. Because I know the training he received, and if he hasn't gone too far past or beyond that, I have a lot of confidence in that. But I haven't really gone in and looked around at what different people are doing. I'm just trying to master what I know. And I know so little. I've been teaching full-time now for 11 years and using the technique myself for since end of 96, beginning of 97, and spent a lot of years learning from people. But it's like Seth Riggs said, we used to have levels of teachers. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 5 would be the top. Somebody asked Seth, what level are you, Seth? He said, I'm level 1. He said we don't have levels anymore, but I'm a 1 because I learned something new every day. And so it's like medical, right? You have a doctor, he has a medical practice. I have a vocal practice, and I am practicing every day, learning as a teacher. All right, so I have to be aware of the time because in 9 minutes I have a student. Okay, let me see. Other comments here. Thanks for answering the questions. You're welcome, Andres. Hi, MK. Thanks for this info. Andres, who else is doing the exercises as Chuck is doing them? Yeah, so by the way, we did start kind of a challenge, and how's it going? I've been really good. Today I haven't practiced yet, but I've got it on my calendar to practice in between one of my students. But I did do my workout this morning, and I've got all my practicing in for 2 weeks now. Well, I started before you guys did, but I'm going to keep going until the end of July with this commitment. Jesse Prince, can you read me? Yes, I can. M. Cross says, hi Chuck, I don't play piano or any other instrument. Because of that, I feel that I'm seriously disadvantaged. What do you think? Do you agree? If not, how exactly can playing the piano help a singer? It helps your musicianship, M. Cross, it helps your musicianship. Now you could maybe do the same thing with violin or any instrument, or guitar particularly would be helpful if you're mainly interested in singing. But let's just say I want to tell you, M, that, and I don't know whether you're male or female, M, I can't remember. I know you've probably told me before. But let's say you're a guy and you want to know where your first bridge is, and if I said it's the E above middle C on the piano, if you know the piano, right away you know what I'm talking about. Or it's the A above middle C, it's the A4 for a female singer. And so there's just musicianship really helps. Depends on how serious you are about wanting to do more with your voice. If I'm cast in a show and now I have music that I have to learn as a soloist or as an ensemble member, it helps me to have the experience to be able to read what line I sing on, right? And to be able to read those notes and know that, oh, I'm in the treble clef, that's the low voice, and find my line and so forth. Those are all things that are helpful. And so it doesn't take a lot. I don't think it takes many years of like piano training, but it just helps so much to talk the language, to be able to speak the language and understand what someone means when they say a crescendo or a decrescendo. Can you crescendo there? Can you crescendo decrescendo? And so you just having that kind of information makes you don't have to say, well, what do you mean crescendo or decrescendo? So it does help. But that being said, depends on what level you're trying to achieve. But I've done theater with friends who don't read music, but they have really good ear and they can learn the music that way. And a couple of them have had some leading roles. They're very good singers and they pick it up fast. So you're not necessarily excluded if you don't know it. But I know this gentleman I'm thinking of particularly feels a little bit limited and a little bit slightly, not necessarily intimidated, but feels like he's a little behind some of the other singers because he doesn't have that in-depth knowledge. Hi, Captain Chuck. If my voice gets thinner in head voice falsetto, is something normal or bad? Well, what do you mean by thinner? The voice as you go into head voice, does get a little bit lighter. There's a little bit more air that passes through the vocal folds, or should. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be, that it's going to. So if you mean by thin, that's not normal. So so the larynx is up. Larynx going up. Larynx down. So it depends. Zena says, G or G, or the dopey sound exercise is great. Yeah, it's a very powerful exercise, isn't it, Zena? Angelique, hi. This may be a silly question, but I wondered exactly what Hootie voice meant. That's an awesome question. So listen to this. If I said, it's not Hootie. It's got more Hootie sound in it. No Hootie in that. So by Hootie, it just means that as you go higher, the larynx is staying down. If the larynx stays down as you go higher, it has to go Hootie. It goes. It's just there's more. It's more space in there for that, and it has kind of a hollow sound. I would say it's kind of like a yawn kind of feeling or sound, as opposed to and so there's with the larynx coming up. If this is where my mouth is, and here's the larynx, and it comes up, now there's less space in there. If it goes down, I've got a little bit more space, and so it's going to have a different tone to it, and it's going to be more hollow or Hootie sounding. I like that. I call it Hootie because it sounds to me like a hoot owl. Ooh, 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 ooh. If my larynx is up, ooh, 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 woo. Hope that helps. Stephen says, thanks for the great answer. You're welcome, Stephen. Thanks for the great question. Hogan Dramatics. What to do if my voice squeezes or tightens? Sometimes when I sing, I can make facial expressions, musical theater. I also feel like I don't know my other voice registers. So, Hogan, those are great questions. That probably you would want to study with someone, or and a lot of these videos that are on my channel will help you also. I like to think of it like this, Hogan Dramatics. As I sing higher, I have to sometimes say to myself, subtract the muscles, subtract the squeezing, diminish that as it goes higher, not increase it. So one quick way to really avoid the squeezing or tightening is to go softer as you go higher, not louder. Yeah, so when you're making faces in musical theater, sometimes that's your character and you have to do that. But we don't want to have to do that when we sing, right? We want it to look like it's effortless. If you're a guy, your other registers, the register is kind of a different word, but bass down here would be chest register. Or if you're a female, the lower part of the voice is the bottom register or the chest register. The middle is your middle register. Sometimes people call it the mix register, or middle is a very common word. And that's in between chest and head. And the high notes, head voice. And if you got those three down, you're 99% there. Some people call falsetto a register. I don't think it's a register. It's disconnected vocal cords. And So, all right, you guys, you know I've got to go. Jesse, was Seth Riggs your teacher, mentor? He was the originator. And yes, I had several years where I, twice a year, would go down and spend the week with Seth, and life-changing, completely life-changing. All the teachers I studied with were trained by him. I went to many national teachers conferences and things, and sat at his feet there. So yes, he was my teacher mentor, and there were some others that are prominent that were his high-level teachers that had a huge influence on me too. Emma Cross says yes. Jesse, yeah, Seth Riggs. So I wish I could say that I studied with him every week for 20 years. I did not, but I've had a lot of wonderful, wonderful times with him. Thanks, everybody. I hope this has been helpful at taking some of the point of singing being hard out of the mix. I think we could have gotten into some more things, and maybe we'll continue this discussion at a later time. I hope this idea of cause and effect exercises have helped, because if we know that the exercises cause certain things in our voices, we don't have to worry about the singing. We just have to do the exercises right, and it will cause those good things to happen in our voices. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video, and stay